Hey, magical experimenters, it's Taylor Elwood, your mad scientist and magical experimenter at magicalexperiments.com. And, I know I've been going and doing this series, or I've been sharing with you how I experiment on, or how I do run one of my experiments, but I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't finished with the experiment yet, and I haven't really even started on the last phase of it. I'm sorry. The fact is I've just been super incredibly busy with some other matters, which happens on occasion. So instead of talking about that today, I am going to talk about a different subject. I'm going to talk about the issues around the psychologizing of magic. And why am I going to talk about it? Well, I happen to see Christopher Penczak comment on the fact that, sometimes he worries that people psychologize magic too much, and sometimes he worries that people don't bring psychology into magic enough. And I kind of thought, that's an interesting statement to make. Here's my own take on it. Psychology and magic are two different disciplines, right? Psychology and magic are two different disciplines. I want you to say that aloud for me right now. Why is that important? Because here's the thing. When you apply one discipline to another and try to explain it away, what inevitably occurs is that you dilute the other discipline. So for example, when I see people try to psychologize magic, what I end up seeing is really an attempt to dilute magic. Well, it's all in your head. Right. You know what? I've never found that magic is all in my head. And I found that any time that I've tried to psychologize it, or other people I know have psychologized it, what it's really done is it's taken the magic out of the experience. And the reason why is because psychology isn't about magic. Psychology is about what's going on up here. Social behaviors, mental behaviors, things like that. And don't get me wrong, psychology has its role and its purpose. I think that anyone who practices magic should definitely spend some time working through their own internal issues and problems. And there can even be some intersection with magic in that. So, you have a dream, or you have an experience, going, with a magical working, going and talking to a therapist about it can help you to unpack it and figure out what, some of the psychological issues are around those things. But we should never use psychology to explain away magic, nor should we use magic to explain away psychology. We may draw on principles of psychology and apply them to magic. We might say, for example, okay, I need to do some internal work, and I'm going to, work with the archetype in order to unpack this particular issue in my life. But at the same time, we shouldn't just wholesale apply psychological terms to magic and say, well, magic's just all in your head. Doesn't work that way. Well, I guess it works that way for some people, but it just seems like a really dull, boring approach to magic, quite honestly. So, I'll say, as someone who's gone to therapy before and benefited from it at times, at other times not so much, I can tell you that yes, there is value to psychology. There's also value to magic, and trying to conflate the two disciplines together, not so helpful. Now, I know I'm someone who will sometimes draw on different disciplines with my magical work, but I don't ever make the mistake of trying to say this discipline can explain magic away, or magic can explain this discipline away. Because I'm not interested in doing that, and two, what I'm interested in is saying, okay, here's this disciplinary practice. How can I take it and apply it to magic in order to get better results? That's my interest, and that's really. But when I do that, I don't say, okay, but now I'm going to take everything from this discipline and apply it to magic and try to box magic into it, because to me that's not useful. It would be like if you're doing meditation and you use meditation to try and explain away psychology. Can meditation help when you're going into therapy? Sure. But as anyone who does any serious amount of meditation will tell you, they will say, do not use meditation as a substitute for therapy. Use meditation as a complement to therapy. So if you're doing internal work via meditation and you're doing a lot of it, maybe you need to be talking to a therapist as well in order to, share some of those experiences and get an objective perspective. But don't conflate the two together. It's really a pet peeve of mine, I have to admit. I just don't like it. Because it serves no real useful purpose to try and fit magic into psychology or physics or anything else. It's like people who want to try and explain magic away in terms of quantum mechanics. One, do they even know what quantum mechanics really are? Probably not. But two, we're taking one model that's used to explain how the universe might work, and we're trying to fit it into a discipline and explain that discipline in relationship to that model. Now, are there things that are relevant in that model that we can draw on? Are there things that could inform how we approach magic? Sure. But should we just take it wholesale and say, this is how magic works? No. We need to appreciate what's already available to us in our own discipline. And if we do draw on another discipline for the purposes of experimentation or whatever else, let's draw on those relevant practices, but let's frame those practices in the context of the discipline we're working in. So if I'm using the literacy studies as a discipline and applying some practices from it in magic, I need to take those practices and frame them in context to the actual magical work that I'm doing. And I'm not trying to explain magic in terms of literacy, and I'm not trying to explain literacy in terms of magic. Same thing goes with psychology. Yeah. What's your take on this issue? Feel free to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on the T. Alright, thanks folks, and have a great day.